This video is an explanation of the checkerboard problem, and I strongly recommend that when you are presented with a problem like this one, where you have a fairly complex task to accomplish, that you split your task into much smaller problems using an organized list like this table, where we have 1 by 1 squares, 2 by 2 squares, 3 by 3 squares, and so on. So we're not trying to count all the squares at once. And to help you understand this problem, I'm actually going to use another strategy in addition to making an organized list. And that strategy is that when a problem seems really overly complex, I simplify the problem and try it on a much smaller scale. So in this case, an 8 by 8 checkerboard is an awful lot of squares to count. So I'm going to simplify my checkerboard into, I'm going to start out with a 2 by 2 checkerboard, and then I'm going to get progressively larger, and I'm going to look for some patterns before I go back to my 8 by 8 checkerboard. So let's start out really simple with this 2 by 2 checkerboard, and let's figure out how many squares are on this board. Well, I see these 1 by 1 squares, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4 of these 1 by 1 squares on the checkerboard. I'm going to label this as a 1 by 1, and I see 4 of them. This large square right here is actually a 2 by 2 square, and I only see one of them, so I'm going to go ahead and label this as a 2 by 2. It's a 2 by 2, and there's only one of them. So all together on the checkerboard, this 2 by 2 checkerboard, we have 4 of the small squares plus 1 of the large squares, so a total of 5 squares on this 2 by 2 simplified checkerboard. And let's now step up to a 3 by 3 checkerboard like this one over here on the right. Now I don't have the small squares on here, but we can fairly easily count that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the 1 by 1 squares, and I'm just out to the right or out to the left going to put 1 by 1. There are a total of 9 of those squares. Now this one right here represents our 2 by 2 squares, and I definitely can see 1. Then we have one here that overlaps, 2, 3, and 4. There are 4 different ways that we can do a 2 by 2 square, so I'm going to label this as 2 by 2, and there are 4 of those. And this would represent our 3 by 3, and obviously there's only one 3 by 3 square. So let's label this as a 3 by 3, and there's 1. So altogether we have 9 plus 4 plus 1, which gives us, what, 14 total squares in the 3 by 3 checkerboard. Okay, we're now going to step up to a 4 by 4 checkerboard like the one that we have here on the right. And in a 4 by 4 checkerboard, we're going to have 4 times 4, which is 16 of the small squares. Those small squares are the 1 by 1 squares, and there were 16 of them. I don't want to put an equal sign here, so I'll put a dash because 1 times 1 doesn't equal 16, but there are 16 of the 1 by 1 squares. Here are the 2 by 2 squares. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the 2 by 2 squares. I'll put this out to the right as well. So 2 by 2 squares, we had 9 of them. And here's your 3 by 3 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. I'll write that out to the right as well. 3 by 3, we had just 4 of them. And I don't have a 4 by 4 drawn on here, but we can see that the 4 by 4, there's only going to be one, because we only have one big 4 by 4 square. So I'll put that down here at the bottom. 4 by 4, we only have one of them. So all together, 16 plus 9 plus 4 plus 1, 16 plus 9 is 25, plus 4 plus 1, that's going to be, what, 30 squares total on our 4 by 4. If you're looking carefully, you can kind of already see some patterns that are developing. And here is our 5 by 5 checkerboard. Of course, on our 5 by 5 checkerboard, there will be 5 times 5 of the 1 by 1 squares, so that will be 25 of the 1 by 1 squares. Here are our 2 by 2s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm hoping you're now starting to see a pattern. And if you do see a pattern, try to guess before I show you how many 3 by 3 squares there are. Try to guess how many you think there will be. Here's a 3 by 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Did you get 9? If you got 9, then you probably can guess how many of the 4 by 4 squares there will be. See if you can guess that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then of course of the 5 by 5s there's only going to be 1. So the 4 by 4 we got 4, and the 5 by 5 there is just 1. So what we have here is we have 30 plus 25 altogether is 55 squares on the 5 by 5 checkerboard. Hopefully you're now really seeing a pattern that you could now apply to the 6 by 6 checkerboard. Before I show you the 6 by 6 checkerboard, see if you can do it on your own. Think about the pattern that you've seen over the last several steps that we've done, and see if you can extend that pattern by one additional step. Obviously in this 6 by 6 checkerboard we're going to have 36 of the small squares, the 1 by 1 squares. And then if we take these 2 by 2 squares, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 of the 2 by 2s. So let's add that. The 3 by 3s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 of the 3 by 3s. I bet you can predict how many 4 by 4s there will be. Here are our 4 by 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I certainly bet you can predict how many of the 5 by 5s. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then of course we know that there is only one of the 6 by 6s. If we add all of these up, we should get 55 plus 36, which would be 91 total squares on the 6 by 6 checkerboard. Now I'm not going to show you the 7 by 7 or the full regular 8 by 8 size checkerboard. You're going to have to do that on your own. But I bet if you've been looking at how a pattern has developed from the 2 by 2 to the 3 by 3 to the 4 by 4 and then the 5 by 5 and then the 6 by 6, I suspect that you see a pattern that's developed. Ask yourself, what is special about those numbers that are in the pattern, and why are those particular kinds of numbers there? What is making them show up in our pattern? And once you understand this pattern, then you can go to the full 8 by 8 checkerboard and you can complete this organized list.